Hey guys, Simon here from A Crystal Affair. Wait, my camera isn't straight. So I wanted to do a quick live video on broken crystals, and a lot of people talk about this in the crystal world. Just going to adjust it. They talk about it in the crystal world, and a lot of people have a lot of really strong opinions about what to do when you break a crystal and what not to do and things like that. And what I really like to empower people to do is to know, just basically to communicate with crystals so they know what's going to be the best thing. Because every situation is different for every crystal and every person. So maybe like when you break a crystal, what I like to do personally is hey everyone joining me, I like to ask the crystal, what would you like to do? Like, some crystals would like to be buried back in the earth. Some crystals would like to be glued back together. Some crystals would like to just still hang out with you. They're just a little bit broken. Like, how many of us feel a little bit broken some days and would rather not get discarded like a broken crystal? So what I really would love and invite people to is a different possibility with, like, hey Avery, with working with broken crystals, because a lot of people have this really strong point of view that it's a bad thing when a crystal breaks and that you now have to throw it away or go and bury it back in the earth. And like, what if it's not that significant, or it's not that, like, sometimes things break, and like, what if a broken crystal doesn't make it lesser, doesn't mean that the energy is bad? Maybe it's just like it requires something else. So what I like to do is I just ask the crystal. I've had beautiful pieces break, and I was like, when I put them together, I was like, does this feel like it wants to get glued back together, yes or no? And then gone with that awareness too. Sometimes they actually were happy to get glued back together. If they're my personal crystals, I will glue them back together. Or I can just be like, I can go and put them in a pot plant and just allow it to contribute to the energy of the pot plant. Sometimes I take it to go and get carved, like you can recut it kind of thing. There's so many different ways. If you think about it this way too, is that at one stage, if you have like a cut or a polished or whatever it is kind of crystal, and it's not in its natural state, someone's had to cut it and break it down from what it originally was to start with, yeah? So in that way, does that make that piece lesser? In my opinion, no. It's really actually, it takes a hit for you, but that doesn't mean it is done being a protective, amazing crystal. Exactly. For me, but this is just true for me. A lot of people have that point of view that like, oh my God, it's time to go and throw it in the bin or throw it back. But I think that's a little bit extreme for something that's been like growing for the past, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years. I would like to think like maybe something else is possible with it. So what you can do, and is what I like to do, is just intuitively ask the crystal, like, hey crystal, crystals are their own beings. So I was like, hey crystal, would you like me to glue you back together? Would you like me to go and, I don't know, whatever it is, would you like to just go and get buried in my pot plant? Whatever it is, but just kind of use your intuition instead of listening to what everyone else has to say, because so many people have these strong opinions. And it's like, none of them are right or wrong. It's just everyone's got different opinions. But it's like, what if you actually stayed in a question of like, hey, crystal, what would you like to do now? Are you breaking so I can go like one half with this person and the other half with this person? And for me, this works a lot. This works a lot better, because you're not making a general assumption for all the crystals. You're just actually staying in a question of like, hey, what would this crystal like? Because sometimes when crystals break, it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that happens. It's like COVID-19. It's not a bad thing that's happening. It's just a thing that's happening. And when we can come out of our really strong points of views about like, this is good and this is bad, like, what if that actually opens us up to other possibilities that we hadn't considered? And there's another really cool, amazing tool that I use like every freaking second of my life, which is looking at things from an energetic perspective of like lightness. And in metaphysical world, they talk about a lot about, follow the light, be in the light. And it's like using the energy, yeah, you can ask a pendulum. but you can basically, it's like following what the energy is light for you. So if someone says, if you break a crystal and your point of view is like, oh, it's really, I've got to go and bury it in the earth, then just go, does this feel heavy to me, or does this feel light to me? Okay, if it feels light to me, cool, go and bury it in the earth. But use your own intuition, use your own awareness, and use your own knowing with everything. Like, and use this tool like with everything in your life, and your life becomes greater. Like, you can ask this for food when you're at the supermarket. Hey body, would you like to eat this? Yes or no? What does feel heavy, or what does feel light? This is one of the single greatest tools that I have learnt with developing my intuition and my own knowing, that allowed me to have a lot more of me and what I know to be true. And you guys are all individual people, and you have a knowing and an awareness that no one else does on the planet. And that's a gift. That's an actual gift in the world. So what if you could just stay in the question of like, hey, what would this crystal like now? Does it want to get glued back together? Does it want to go to someone else? Is it just change the energy? You know, how often do we actually change our energies and change our lives, and the crystal's just changing with it? So this is just my own point of view, and lots of people have different points of views, but like, what if you could just be like, oh, okay, this is really light for me. If someone says to you, maybe the crystal wants to get glued back together, then that's light for you, then just follow that. And maybe there's no one formula that rules the earth and rules all crystals. Yeah, maybe it can be whatever you sense, whatever you intuit. It's something that I really love and would love to invite people to, is like, don't follow what anyone else says to you about anything. If it's a reader or a guru or whoever the fuck is talking to you, including me, don't follow it if it's heavy for you. If this brings up a sense of heaviness in your world, then don't listen to me. Listen to your own awareness. You are an amazing being, and you have an awareness there. So what if you could follow that with everything in your life? Awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. I just really wanted to do a really quick video on this because I had someone message me and they're like, hey, this crystal broke and I said, and they said, what does it mean? And I said, well, what if it doesn't mean anything? It's just a thing that happened. And like, ask the crystal, what would it like to do now? Where would it like to go? Does it want to stay with you? Does it, whatever. But just ask questions, ask the crystal. It knows what it's doing. It's its own little being. Thanks for joining me. Feel free to share this video if it contributed to you. And have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.